Hi, welcome to Tarot Mandala. This is where we use the meditative art of creating mandalas to kind of tune into a particular tarot card. And this just kind of allows for deeper meaning of the card to come forward. So, reading tarot, I feel the best way to read tarot is really intuitively. And if you are just starting out, I feel like tarot cards are a great tool to really help you tune into your own intuition, tune into that skill of listening for messages that come through on a different level, like messages that come through that are not coming from like the intellectual mind or the emotional mind, but rather from like more of the spiritual place. It's different. It's definitely a skill that needs to be built to be able to kind of like put aside that analytical mind and listen for that that other voice that comes through. However, I do believe that intuition really is a combination of what you do know intellectually, your ability to feel deeply on an emotional level, and those things combined with the messages that come from the collective unconscious. Those things together make up your intuition. So that being said, it's very important to do the emotional work as well as the intellectual part of it. So it's important to know the story behind a particular tarot card in order to sink in deeper. And there is so much story behind any one given card. There's so much symbolism in any particular card. And so even the Three of Swords, where this is a pretty simple card in the tarot deck. I mean, basically it's, a heart, it's swords, it's clouds, it's rain, it's color. But yet, even within those very simple elements, there's a lot of symbolism. So again, like, looking at the Three of Swords, like, it's like one of the most recognizable cards in the deck because it's like it's it's instantly recognizable because there's so much like emotional charge in this particular card. I mean, there are three swords piercing a heart, and so anybody, even someone who is not familiar with tarot, can look at that imagery and immediately feel the emotional charge behind it, right? Like these sharp swords piercing your heart, like that's heartbreak. Oh my gosh, you can feel that pain in your heart of just like, and it immediately conjures up stories of like a time when you felt that kind of heartbreak. So it's something very relatable. So let's break it down a little bit. So the key words for the Three of Swords are heartbreak, betrayal, loss, painful truth, grief, separation, emotional release, but also clarity through sorrow. And so every card in the tarot really has like its light expression and its dark expression. And so believe it or not, the heartbreak, betrayal, loss, painful truth, those are actually light expressions because there's a clarity that can arise from feeling this type of painful truth. The shadow expression, however, would be like resentment, bitterness, refusal to heal, self-pity, cruelty, unnecessary suffering. So these are the expressions that don't allow for resolution or clarity to come through the pain of what the Three of Swords represents. Okay. So The Three of Swords it really is a moment of emotional reckoning. It is like the heart is being pierced by truth. Like you are being completely confronted with this moment of truth that just pierces through your heart. So it does represent the storm after the illusion breaks. And that's what swords are, right? Swords are the tools that really cut through the illusion. So, and sometimes, that can be very painful because sometimes the illusion kind of keeps us in this space where, um, you know, we're not really willing to confront the truth, right? So, so the Three of Swords really does represent the storm after the illusion breaks. It's like when the painful awareness, cuts through the denial, cuts through the illusion. So while this card is often associated with heartbreak or betrayal, its deeper message really is catharsis. It's the truth that hurts, but also heals. The card really teaches, the Three of Swords really teaches that pain is not punishment. And this is a huge life lesson. Pain is not punishment. It's clarity arriving. It is clarity coming through for you, and that can often be very painful. So the swords that pierce the heart, they're not there to destroy it, but to open it up, to reveal the truth beneath the sorrow, to make space for compassion, to make space for wisdom, to make space for release. So again, the suit is swords, and again, swords are the realm of the mind, thought, communication. The element associated with the card is air, it's intellect, truth, perception, words, and the number associated with the card is 3. And 3 really is about creation. 3 is the number of creation, growth, is also the number of expression and communication. So in the Suit of Swords, this number reveals the outcome of conflict. So words or thoughts that manifest emotionally. Let's see. And so the story within the card, again, the imagery is like, it's very simple, but it's potent. There's a red heart suspended in midair, and it's pierced by 3 swords under a gray sky heavy with rain. So there are no people in this card, only symbols. So it really the card is really stripped of distraction, and it leaves you with the feeling itself, right? There's no distraction of people or other complicated imagery. It's just that feeling of the heart being pierced by truth. So when we relate it back to the Fool's Journey, which the entirety of the tarot really communicates the Fool's Journey, you could also call it the Hero's Journey. But this card really marks the moment in the Fool's Journey when understanding comes through the pain, when we learn that love and loss are intertwined, and that wisdom is really born through this vulnerability. So the symbolism, the heart is the symbol of love, emotion, symbol of human connection, and floating in the air, it represents the universality of emotional experience. It's not bound by a single story. It is something that all of us, each and every one of us, um, you know, has the ability to experience, right? It's this emotional depth that each and every one of us is, has experienced, is experiencing. It is the human, condition, really. So the human heart is laid bare, it's pure, it's honest, it's unguarded. Then enter the swords. The swords, again, representing thoughts, words, or truths that cut deep. The 3 swords can really symbolize different things in this card. So it could be, one of the swords can represent truth. It's the painful realization or revelation of something. The second sword can represent separation, right? Because swords, they cut through things, they separate things. So the sword of separation could really represent loss, distance, betrayal. And then we have the sword of expression, the sword of words, and it represents the power of words to harm, but also to heal. So together, the three swords really signify that the heartbreak comes from mental clarity or communication, perhaps things said or left unsaid. Okay. Then there's the rain and the stormy sky in the background. And the rain symbolizes tears, grief, emotional cleansing, right? So oftentimes crying is a very cathartic thing, right? Like a lot of times, especially I think for for males, it has been, especially in the older generations, it's something that is like not encouraged, and this varies across cultures as well, but I think for um, people of my generation anyway, like boys were kind of always taught like, oh, why are you crying? You're just like a little girl, or men don't cry, or things like that, right? And so um, that emotion is held in. It's not allowed to be expressed. But like crying is a very important thing. Like it allows the outward expression of this of pain, right? So and if you notice, after you have a good cry, like you feel a little bit better, you feel like a little bit of release. So the rain in this card really does symbolize tears and the ability to emotionally express outwardly that grief, and experience a type of emotional cleansing. So that is what the rain symbolizes in the card, symbolizes tears and the expression of grief or pain. But also, the clouds raining down, kind of does, represent a storm, right? And, like any good storm, it passes, right? It's a reminder that the pain, like weather, is transient, it comes and goes, it doesn't remain forever. And so a really important message, I feel, or a realization is that when you are in the grips of something painful, the grips of grief or something painful, it's important to be there. It's important to feel it. It's important to experience it. But it's also important to really hold in the back of your mind that this is temporary. And as painful as it feels in the moment, it will pass, right? So I think sometimes people get consumed by their grief, and for whatever reasons, lots of reasons behind it, but like sometimes people like really try to stay there in that grief, and oftentimes that might be related to self-worth, right? And guilt, and whatever other reasons might be behind that. But sometimes the cats are playing in the background, so sorry about the noise. But really, it's really important to really hold on to this idea that the storm will pass. This too shall pass. Okay. And again, their balance comes in here, and that's kind of like the color in the card of gray is like this color of neutrality. It is very much like this, like finding that balance and really understanding that, through the darkness will come the light. The black of darkness will merge, with the light, and that's what gray is. Like it's this color of kind of like balancing those two. Okay. So again, the absence of people actually has a symbolic meaning as well, not just that they're not there, so that focus is put on the feeling itself. It's also the absence of people also represents like the need to really direct your focus inward, right? So this is not something that is outside of yourself. Like you really want to direct the focus inward with the Three of Swords. It's really asking you to look within yourself. And also the absence of people also, like, it just really invites reflection on your own inner storm, your own journey, rather than external blame, right? You don't want to, when you're feeling this pain, and sometimes this is a process that we have to kind of go through, like you want to sometimes like look for explanation outside of yourself sometimes, but really the lack of people in this card is really asking you to focus inward rather than focusing on any kind of external blame. So again, in the Fool's Journey, this card like really, so it appears after the connection of the Two of Swords, right? So the Two of Swords is like, twos are often about like a dilemma, making a choice, something like that. So really, when you move past the Two of Swords, you're giving way to some realization, right? You're gaining some kind of realization. You're making some kind of decision. You're coming to some kind of decision point or realization. And so the next point in that is really to like, what does that decision then show you, So the Fool experiences the emotional loss. Perhaps like it's the first time that, they really, in the Fool's journey, it's like the first time that you really feel the cost of love or betrayal or disillusionment, right? It's the first time for the Fool in the journey that he really like understands the significance of pain, of loss, of betrayal, and how it is intertwined with love. Okay, so for the Fool, this is the passage through the heartbreak that teaches discernment, empathy, forgiveness. It's a painful initiation into emotional maturity. It is really the heart's awakening through experience. Okay. So for the lessons and the archetypal energy of the card, the archetype is really, it is related to the wounded healer, right? So one who finds strength through vulnerability. And the lesson here is that pain is a teacher. So, don't resist it. Don't try to bury it. Don't try to avoid it. It's really important to feel it fully and let it pass through your system, because what happens is when we don't allow it, right, when we don't feel it fully, it actually ends up as like stuck energy in our body, mind, and spirit, right? And we all know that stuck energy is really harmful for the body, mind, spirit, for the being. Yeah, it can cause emotional sickness, it can cause physical sickness, it can cause mental sickness. And an example of mental sickness would be like building up walls, right? Like having resistance to even experiencing love because you didn't process the pain, right? And in the body, of course, like that stuck energy can result in, heart problems or, just other kinds of physical illnesses that are connected to the emotional illness and connected to the thought that is like almost creating the emotional illness. So everything is very connected. So it's very important to allow pain to be felt fully and then processed in that sense and then moved through, right? So the Three of Swords really asks us to see suffering as an opening, as a moment that the heart can crack open enough for light to enter. So when embodied positively, the Three of Swords, really can bring about like honesty, bravery, emotional bravery, compassion, and wisdom through experience. The When embodied positively, it really allows for the capacity of great empathy and clarity about human emotions. However, the shadow expression of it can really, and this again is like not processing it fully, not allowing it to move through your body, can cause cynicism, can cause detachment. It can make a person more prone to cruelty or self-sabotage. The shadow expression can also, um, cause you to find yourself in a place of dwelling in suffering, or like really resisting vulnerability out of fear of being hurt again. Okay, so more aligned actions would really be allowing emotions to be felt without judgment. Like, you don't have to judge it, just let it flow through you. And communicating truth with compassion is a very aligned action that we can receive from the Three of Swords. Journaling, crying, releasing, really making space for that healing, and seeking the wisdom in the pain rather than trying to escape it. So these are really great, aligned actions that the Three of Swords can teach us. So, in summary, really, the Three of Swords is not just about heartbreak, it's about honesty. And it really begs the question, what truth must pierce through your illusions in order for your heart to be open again? And it really, begs us to really sink into the lessons of, or the realizations that through sorrow comes wisdom, and through vulnerability comes freedom. It reminds us that, like, the storms will clear the air, and even a wounded heart can be stronger than before. Okay, so these are just like very, very very important lessons to remember when we see the Three of Swords. So when you are reading for yourself or reading for someone else, I feel it's very important to really communicate the lessons that arrive from the Three of Swords. Is not just about the pain. It's about, again, like referring back to the Fool's Journey, what comes after that? What comes after the Three of Swords? What comes after is the Four of Swords. And the Four of Swords is about healing, is about rest, is about taking the time you need to really like sink into the lessons that the pain has taught you. So it's really important to keep that in mind when you're reading for yourself or you're reading for another person, and just in general, really, to really have the outlook of understanding that pain is a teacher. It teaches us things, and also that it passes, right? If we can move through it in a really healthy way, it will pass, and it will grow you stronger, and it will really expand consciousness. So in this particular mandala, I really just try to focus on the colors, gray, and of course the red of the heart. Red is passion and love, and fiery, just this fiery, passionate feeling. And the hearts are there, and the swords are piercing through the hearts. The clouds, of course, representing the storm, and the drops of rain. It's pretty straightforward. I try to really keep it in line with the simplicity of the Three of Swords in the Rider-Waite Tarot. Alrighty, so if you are experiencing any pain, I am sending you lots of love, and lots of healing, and lots of knowing that you will move through this, and you will, like the phoenix from the ashes, arise, reborn in some way, and stronger. Alrighty. Take care. Aloha.